Title: The Return of the Warlord Queen. The wind howled across the scorched plains of Karath, carrying with it the whispers of a name long feared and nearly forgotten. Ashai, once spoken in terror, now barely remembered, reduced to myth, to legend, to a cautionary tale told to restless children by flickering firelight. But legends have a way of returning. The Empire of Varethas had known peace for 17 years. It was a fragile peace, built on ash and bones. After the fall of the Warlord Queen, the kingdoms that once trembled beneath her iron rule rose again. Cities were rebuilt, alliances forged, and the people dared to hope. King Edric of Valmir, now old and weary, often claimed that peace was not a victory, but a reprieve. Few listened. Fewer understood. Beyond the Empire's eastern borders, where maps faded into blank parchment, the land remained untamed. The Black Expanse, once the heart of Ashai's dominion, was believed to be cursed. No one who ventured too far ever returned unchanged, if they returned at all. It was there that the first sign appeared. A rider arrived at the gates of Valmir just before dawn. He was barely alive. His horse collapsed beneath him, foam and blood staining its flanks. Guards rushed forward, dragging the man from the saddle as he gasped for breath. "They're coming," he whispered. "Who?" one guard demanded. The man's eyes widened with a terror that froze every soul present. "Her banners, I saw her banners." The council chamber erupted into chaos. "That's impossible," Lord Herrick slammed his fist onto the table. "The queen is dead, we all saw her fall." "Did we?" murmured Lady Selene, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Silence followed. King Edric leaned heavily on his throne, his frail fingers gripping the armrests. "Speak plainly." Selene stepped forward. "We saw her army fall, we saw her fortress burn, but no one found her body." "That proves nothing," Herrick snapped. "The fire would have." "Consumed her," Selene interrupted. "Perhaps, or perhaps it allowed her to vanish." Murmurs spread through the chamber. General Kale, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. "Whether it is truly her or not does not matter. Someone is raising her banners. Someone is gathering forces in the expanse." "And you believe they will march on us?" the king asked. Kale's gaze was steady. "They already have." Far to the east, beneath a sky choked with storm clouds, an army moved. They marched in perfect silence. Thousands upon thousands of soldiers clad in blackened armor, their faces hidden behind iron masks. Their banners bore a symbol long thought lost, a crimson crown pierced by a blade. At their head rode a lone figure. Her armor was unlike the others, dark as midnight, etched with scars of countless battles. A tattered cloak flowed behind her, snapping in the wind like a living thing. Her face remained hidden beneath a helm shaped like a crown. But her presence was unmistakable. "Do they still remember me?" she asked quietly. The rider beside her, a man with pale eyes and a voice like gravel, bowed his head. "They remember enough to fear you." A faint chuckle escaped her. "Fear is a beginning," she said, "not an end." She turned her gaze westward. To rebuild an empire, one must first remind the world why it fell. 17 years ago, Ashai had conquered half the known world. She was not born to power. She took it. Raised among the war tribes of the Expanse, she learned early that mercy was weakness and hesitation meant death. By the age of 16, she had slain her first chieftain. By 20, she had united the tribes under her banner. And by 25, she began her conquest. Cities fell like dominoes. Armies shattered against her forces. Kings bent the knee or lost their heads. But Ashai was not merely a conqueror. She was a strategist. She understood something her enemies did not. War was not fought on battlefields alone. It was fought in minds, in fear, in belief. She became unstoppable because the world believed she was unstoppable. Until the final battle. The Battle of Ashfall. It was there that the United Kingdoms made their stand. and it was there that Asha disappeared. Now, as rumors spread and panic took root, the world once again began to whisper her name. Asha, the Warlord Queen, returned. In the quiet village of Elrin, far from the politics of kings and generals, a young woman named Lyra watched the horizon burn. At first, she thought it was a storm. But storms did not move like that. They did not march. "Mother," she called, her voice trembling, "you need to see this." Her mother stepped outside, wiping her hands on her apron. One look at the distant black line was enough to drain the color from her face. "No," she whispered, "it cannot be." Lyra turned to her. "What is it?" Her mother hesitated. Then, softly, she said a name Lyra had never heard before. Asha. The army reached Elrin by nightfall. There was no battle. No warning. Only fire. Lyra ran. She did not remember deciding to run. Only that one moment she stood frozen in terror, and the next she was sprinting into the forest as screams filled the air behind her. She did not look back. She could not. Hours passed before she collapsed, breathless and shaking. The forest was silent. Too silent. And then, "Get up." Lyra spun around. A man stood before her, cloaked in shadow. "Who are you?" she demanded. "A friend," he replied, "if you're wise enough to listen." She narrowed her eyes. "And if I'm not? Then you'll die here." Lyra hesitated. "Good," the man said. "You're learning." He extended a hand. "My name is Kale." Back in the capital, preparations for war had begun. Messengers rode day and night, summoning allies. Blacksmiths worked without rest. The city braced itself. But beneath the urgency, beneath the fear, there was something else. Doubt. Because if Asha truly had returned, could she be stopped? Days later, Kale and Lyra stood atop a ridge overlooking a valley. Below them, the army stretched as far as the eye could see. Lyra felt her stomach drop. "That's impossible," she whispered. Kale's expression was grim. "No, it's very possible." At that size, they could. "Destroy everything," Kale finished. Lyra turned to him. "Then why are we here?" Kale's gaze never left the army. "Because I've seen her fall once," he said, "and I intend to see it again." Lyra hesitated. "You fought her?" she asked. Kale nodded. "And survived?" "Barely." She swallowed. "Then you know how to stop her." Kale was silent for a long moment. Finally, he said, "No, but I know where to start." At the heart of the army, within a massive war tent, Asha stood before a map. Pins marked cities already taken. More marked those yet to fall. "You're moving too quickly," said the pale-eyed man beside her. "Am I?" Asha replied. "You risk overextension." She smiled beneath her helm. "Let them think that," she said. "Let them believe I am reckless." "And are you not?" Asha turned to him. "For 17 years, the world has grown complacent," she said. "They believe me gone. They believe themselves safe." Her voice hardened. "I will show them how wrong they are." As night fell, Kale and Lyra crept closer to the enemy camp. Fires dotted the landscape. Guards patrolled in precise patterns. "This is madness," Lyra whispered. "Yes," Kale agreed, "it is." "Then why are we doing it?" Kale glanced at her. "Because sometimes madness is the only way to survive." They moved silently through the shadows, avoiding patrols, slipping between tents. At last, they reached the center. The war tent. Kale stopped. "This is it," he said. Lyra's heart pounded. "What's the plan?" Kale drew a dagger. "We end it." Inside the tent, Asha stood alone. Or so it seemed. Kale stepped forward, blade ready. "Asha." She did not turn. "I wondered how long it would take," she said. Lyra froze. Kale's grip tightened. "You remember me," he said. Asha turned slowly. Even without seeing her face, Lyra felt the weight of her gaze. "How could I forget?" Asha replied. "You're the man who failed to kill me." Kale lunged. The clash was instant. Steel met steel in a blur of motion. Lyra could barely follow their movements. They were too fast, too precise. Kale struck again and again, but Asha parried every blow effortlessly. "You've grown slower," she observed. "And you've grown careless," Kale shot back. Asha laughed. "Careless," she said. "No, I've grown patient." With a single motion, she disarmed him. Kale fell to his knees, breathless. "It ends here," he said. Asha raised her blade. "Yes," she agreed, "it does." Lyra moved before she could think. "Stop." Both turned. Lyra stood trembling, but her voice did not falter. "You don't have to do this," she said. Asha tilted her head. "No," she said softly. Lyra swallowed. "Whatever happened, whatever made you this way, it doesn't have to define you." Silence filled the tent. Then, Asha laughed. Not a cruel laugh. Not an angry one. But something far worse. A knowing one. "You think this is about pain," she said. "About revenge." She stepped closer. "This is about order." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The world you defend is broken, weak, divided." She gestured to the map. "I will fix it." Lyra shook her head. "By destroying it. By remaking it." Outside, the wind began to rise. Storm clouds gathered overhead. Inside the tent, tension crackled like lightning. Kale struggled to stand. "You're wrong," he said. "You always were." Asha turned back to him. "History will decide that," she replied. She raised her blade once more. But this time, she hesitated. Just for a moment. And in that moment, everything changed. The storm broke. Thunder roared across the sky. And somewhere, deep within the chaos of war and memory and destiny, the Warlord Queen faltered. Because even legends are not immune to doubt. And as the first drops of rain fell upon the burning world, a new story began to unfold. One that would decide not just the fate of empires, but the fate of Asha herself. To be continued.